So we're back here with Project Gotta Have It Race again, and this car you probably haven't seen for a while when it was happening to it. Well, last year we took this car, which used to be a drag car, and our goal was to build a car that could autocross and road race. Now, unfortunately, COVID hit, most of the events we were going to go to got canceled, and the project kind of got pushed aside for some other things. But now that things are opening up again, we're back on this car, and today we're going to upgrade the brakes with help from Hawk Performance. With our goal of taking Gotta Have It Race from a car that just goes straight to a car that actually stops and turns, a brake upgrade is a must-have. So Hawk Performance set us up with a set of their Street 5L pads and a set of their Talon rotors. Now the Talon rotors will be a direct replacement for your 2011 through 2014 GT with non-performance pack. Then the rears will also be your 2005 through 2014 with the standard brakes. The pads we're going to are a ferro compound pad that will provide much less stopping distance, much better heat dissipation, and also remain quiet and somewhat less dusty. Same thing goes for the rotors. The rotors are made here in the USA, feature a special coating designed by Hawk that will allow the bed-in process to go a lot faster, and then the vented rotors will also help with heat dissipation. We're going to start here in the front. As you can see, our car's been sitting for quite a while. Our brakes are pretty ugly to begin with, but we're looking forward to the upgrade for much better performance. We're going to start by removing the caliper from the caliper bracket. Caliper up out of the way. All right, now we're going to pop out the original pads. Now remove the two bolts to get the caliper bracket off the spindle. So before we can remove our factory rotor, there's this little retainer on here. These can kind of be a pain to remove. Sometimes you can, there are some pliers. Sometimes you have to cut them off, but whatever you can do to get it off. Turn a little bit and see if we can get lucky here, but probably not.
Eventually.
And we're actually lucky our rotor came off. If it doesn't, usually just tapping kind of like that will help loosen it. The camera won't pick it up. If you look closely, these are labeled right and left. Make sure you grab the correct one. I'm going to throw a lug nut on just to hold it in place. I'm going to spray a little brake clean in the slides here to clean them before we re-grease them. Put some of the provided grease in there. Okay, now we can reinstall the bracket. We're gonna put the caliper bracket back on. I'm gonna put a little bit of red Loctite on them. They do come with blue, but you wanna make sure these brackets don't go anywhere, so a little extra, it's not a bad idea. All right, now we're gonna put our new pads in place. Now we're going to grab the grease here and again put some on the back. Using a caliper tool or a C-clamp, however you want to do it, put the old pad on here, push the pistons back in, install over our new pads. And reinstall the bolts.
The rear is just like the front. We're going to start by taking off our caliper, the 13 millimeter. Remember, before pulling your caliper, make sure your e-brake's down. Don't want to have a stuck caliper. Once the bolts are out, pull the caliper off. Now you can remove your brake caliper bracket, the 15 millimeter. Once your caliper bracket's removed, remove your old rotor. Pulls right off. Just like the front rotor, it's labeled right and left, so we're gonna grab the right side, slide it back on, grab our caliper bracket, put them Loctite on our bolts, and then reinstall it. Okay. Go ahead and tighten them down, and then torque them down to spec. Now to push the pistons is a little bit different than the front. What we're gonna have to do is screw the piston in. You need a special tool. You slide it into the caliper, slide it on the piston, take the slack out. And what you're gonna do is take a ratchet, you're gonna twist the piston back into the caliper. If you don't have access to one of these special tools, you can go to the local parts store, grab one of these cubes. It's universal to whatever caliper piston you need. Put a 3/8 socket on there, tighten it down, and just go ahead and twist it in. Once you push the piston all the way in, you want the 2 notches up and down with the caliper. If you have it the other way, it will not line up with the pads when you reinstall it. Grab your new Hawk Street 50 pads, put some grease on them, on the edges and on the back face. Slide them into place. Once you have your pads in place, slide your caliper back in. There will be a little bit of tension with the springs, so push down on the caliper, put your first bolt in, and then put your second one in. Once you tighten down this caliper, do the same thing on the other side, then go inside the vehicle, push down your brakes to build up pressure back in your pistons, then your installation is complete.
So our Hawk Performance Talon rotors and Street 50 pads are installed, and Gotta Have It racers ready to hit the road. And like Brendan mentioned, pump the brakes a few times because we did compress the calipers. You don't have to bleed the system because we didn't open the system up at all. Now, we did say there is a bedding in process for the pads and the rotors. That process is actually covered in detail in the included instructions. We also covered it in other videos, so we're not going to bother now. But again, the car is ready to go. The installation will take about an hour and a half to 2 hours. We'll be back on the road in no time.